In April 1947, in a little Swiss village, a small band of economists met with plans to rewrite the global economic story, and they called it neoliberalism. Their method was ingenious. They described each economic actor with a set of such powerful traits that the rest of the script almost wrote itself. In the 1980s, when their laissez-faire story was finally put on the international stage, the plot was loaded from the very start. And so for the last 40 years, we've been told that the market is efficient, so give it free rein. That the state is incompetent, so don't let it meddle. That trade is win-win, so open your borders. That the commons are tragic, so sell them off. That society, well, there's no such thing, so ignore it. And that the household is domestic, so leave it to the women. With such a cast list, the triumph of the market seemed almost inevitable, and it's been driving us into social and ecological crisis. But we were also told that finance is infallible, and that was so clearly disproven in the global financial crash that it's called the rest of the story into question too. It's time to ditch this outdated neoliberal script. We need a new economic story that's fit for the 21st century, one that puts the economy in service to life. So how should that story begin? In the 20th century, economics lost its purpose and started chasing the false goal of GDP growth. In recent decades, that has pushed many societies into deepening inequality, and it's pushing us all towards ecological collapse. This century calls for a new goal, meeting the needs of all within the means of the planet. In the 20th century, GDP growth turned into the overriding target of economic policy. So much so that governments, businesses and financial markets came to expect, demand and depend upon it never ending, even in the world's richest countries. Politicians promising a better future offer green growth, inclusive growth, smart, resilient or balanced growth. Pick any future you want, so long as you pick growth. And so, we have economies that need to grow, whether or not they make us thrive. For 200 years, industrial activity has been based on degenerative design. We take Earth's materials, make them into stuff we want, use it for a while, and then toss it away. Take, make, use, lose. It's a one-way system that runs counter to the living world, and it's devouring the sources of its own sustenance. Economic theory has told us not to worry, that more growth is needed so that nations can afford to clean things up. But at the global scale, that's simply not true. And the effects are destroying Earth's life support systems on which we all fundamentally depend. We can't wait for growth to clean things up because it won't. We need to turn today's economies, which are degenerative by default, into ones that are regenerative by design. Ones that run on renewable energy, that turn waste from one process into food for the next, so that things are never used up, but are used again and again. And in all this, the 21st century economist's role is a crucial one: to harness the potential of business and finance, of the commons and the state, and of human nature, to unleash this regenerative future. This century calls for a new goal, meeting the needs of all within the means of the planet. In other words, it's time to get into the donut, the sweet spot for humanity. But that's no easy task. Today, billions of people still fall short of their daily needs, from food, housing and energy to healthcare and education. And yet collectively, we've already overshot our pressure on some of Earth's most critical life support systems, driving climate change and the breakdown of biodiversity. What we do to this Earth in the next 50 years will shape the next 10,000. So let's replace that last century goal of endless growth with the goal of thriving in balance. And if we're to have half a chance of getting there, what economic mindset would be fit for the task?